Do you ever watch your favorite pro playing Apex and just think, how the heck did they just do that? These players seem to have insane game awareness and mechanics, and it can be tough sometimes to understand how they even make the decisions that they make. What's up, guys? It's Valued, and today we're going to take a dive into just that. By the end of this video, you will have 5 great tips that pro players use that you can apply to your game to instantly improve. With that being said, let's get right into it. Sometimes, watching these players, it's hard to believe that they are in certain areas of the map with so many teams around them and they don't just get beamed. Or even in fights, they always manage to take a lot less damage than other players. The biggest reason that they do this and it feels like you can't is because they're really good at manipulating their enemy's line of sight. Line of sight refers to the specific sight lines that the enemy has, and understanding these potential angles and constantly avoiding them will keep you from even being in someone's crosshair to begin with. This skill requires a deep understanding of the game and can be one of the most difficult things to master for a couple of reasons. First, you need to have a crazy solid understanding of the map you're playing on. The best players in the world know these maps like the back of their hand. From every major POI to the random huts in the corners of the map, these players know what angles someone in any of these positions have access to and are constantly able to avoid them. Second, they are incredible at mapping out players throughout a match. From the time they drop into the final ring, pro players are tracking player movement on the map with every audio and visual cue possible. By doing this, they have a much better understanding of their current situations at all times. They don't get distracted by a team in front of them and forget they saw a team Valkylt to a power position, or the other teams that are fighting in the area nearby. Rather than taking in this info and forgetting it, they're constantly updating this info and adapting it over time with predictions of what other players are going to do. And the final thing needed to become a beast at manipulating these lines of sight is having the movement to quickly reposition at will. Having all this knowledge doesn't do you any good unless you can actually use it, and you need to have mastery of movement so that you feel comfortable navigating the map at will. I'm not saying you need to be able to do a double wall bounce or a super glide. What I am saying is you need to be very comfortable with the key movement mechanics in the game. This really comes into play in close range situations when you're fighting multiple enemies at once. This line of sight rule is more important the closer the enemy is to you, as they have the ability to easily deal more damage to you at closer ranges. Having solid movement to allow them to train enemies around a building, zipline jump up to high ground, or just slide challenge someone who's cut off from their team's sight lines is very, very important, and it's what allows these top level players to get the most out of their game knowledge. Most of us do this naturally without even realizing it, but if you take the time to put a focus on this skill and really hone in on focusing less on your lines of sight and more on your enemies, you'll be getting closer and closer to the pros every single day. And speaking of getting closer and closer to the pros, I'm going to send it over to one of the best pros, Imperial Hal, because he has an amazing opportunity for you guys that you don't want to miss.
Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Imperial Hal and welcome to my brand new Apex class. This class goes over everything you need to move, shoot, and think like me. Whether you're silver or diamond, controller or keyboard, you're going to be the one carrying your friends. I typically can't get to all your comments, but this course is actually going to help you guys so much in all your questions. If you're serious about becoming a better Apex player, join me for the next 30 days and commit to improving.
Alright guys, this next tip really applies mostly to your late games, especially as you start to reach the higher ranks. You'll notice that pro players are great at playing in unison. This is what really transcends their squads above others. If you're able to match up against a pro team rather than playing against one of the best players, you'd be playing against 3 of them. Not only that, but they're much scarier as a team because they can have a high level of confidence in their teammates to always communicate well, cover their weaknesses, and capitalize on advantages that they create. Now look, I know your squads in solo queue aren't anywhere near this, but as you get into platinum and above, you have a good chance that some of the players on your teams are gonna be solid, especially early in the season. While you shouldn't rely on them and put yourself in danger mindlessly, if you can use their pressure to your advantage, even if they're just running in and dying, you'll find yourself winning a lot more or fights using your teammates' pressure. In the early game, this is less of a priority in ranked because generally you don't want to be hot dropping and fighting right away. However, as you get into the final couple of rings, playing closely with your squad and trying your best to capitalize on their advantages is the absolute key to winning your game. Even if you don't have pro players on your team, you can still try your best to react to their actions the way that a pro player would. Even if your teammate goes down, if they land some damage and ping out enemy locations, they're being more useful than we often give them credit for. In the late game, it's usually best to fully commit to whatever your squad is doing. Even if you make it to the top 5, the game should become all about working together. Even if the play isn't great, whatever it is, doing it as a team at this point in the game is going to give you a way higher success rate. And if you fully commit to your fights and plays, you'd be surprised how many you'll actually start winning. So quit playing on the edge, waiting for your team to die, and just bailing to rat out the rest of the game. If you make it to the second half of the match, stop focusing on ratting and focus more on winning the game with your squad. This one goes out to Octane mains especially. So while we're on this point, if you are looking for some teammates at your rank who actually want to improve, make sure to check out our Discord server. We can all make solo queue work, but if you want to queue up with some like-minded players, there are a ton of them waiting to squad up over here, so check out the Discord in the description below. On the topic of committing to fights, many legends have abilities that function much better with this playstyle. Legends like Gibby or Horizon can have a much tougher time in these half-in, half-out situations. Take Gibby for example. Once that bubble goes down, this is his domain. He really doesn't want to leave the bubble unless it's to quickly peek to deal damage or to clean up a fight. Let's say you push a squad and bubble, but the fight isn't going super well. This is where it's much often better to commit to your decisions and get the most out of your power. Between Gibby's gun shield and fortified passive, he can be really tough to kill, especially in his bubble. However, he's a big target, and if you get shot in the back, you will go down really fast. That's why you'll notice a lot of pro Gibby players staying in the face of enemies with their shotties for a lot longer than you'd expect them to. Rather than trying to run when Gibby gets low, these high-level players will stick it out, weaving around the bubble and keeping their gun shield aimed at incoming damage. Even if the gun shield gets popped, you will see them buying themselves a bit of time for it to recharge and getting back into the fight. You'd be surprised just how much damage you can get off if you just commit to the fight, and in many situations, this is actually the safest decision. Don't get shot in the back trying to run, assess the situation, and commit to your play if you've committed the resources. This next one is a very simple weapon trick that helps a lot of pros have much better accuracy at long range than you do. And that is using your trigger finger more often. A lot of the automatic weapons in the game can be tough to hit long-range shots on. The combination of bullet velocity and recoil can make it really tough to hit these shots. But there's a couple easy ways to eliminate a lot of that recoil. If you pulse your firing rapidly, you can reduce a lot of the weapon's recoil. Using your trigger finger in a similar way to when you're using semi-auto weapons allows you to quickly reset your recoil and keep it from getting out of hand. While this might slow down your fire rate by a bit, if you get the timing down with each weapon, it's actually not by that much. And you'll find yourself having a much higher DPS anyways due to hitting more of your shots. This is a simple tip, but so many players, even into Diamond and above, don't utilize this recoil technique enough. If you want to learn a ton more about hitting your shots, be sure to check out our recent video. This one goes over every aspect that's causing you to miss shots, and believe it or not, most of them aren't actually your aim. You might be used to seeing your favorite pro or streamer go into a game and drop 20 kills, but the best players only take fights that are optimal. You might ask, well valued, what is an optimal fight? A fight you want to take is something that's isolated and has low chances to get third party. Examples of this would include fights on the edge of ring, fights where you do a lot of damage and can end them fast, or fights in a POI that you know doesn't have a lot of enemies nearby. This tip is important to note because if you learn how to take smart fights, you can actually end up dropping high kill games without being stuck in a fiesta with 6 teams running at you. So guys, take the time to get yourself used to assessing a fight and seeing if you actually should take it. For example, let's say you're on Kings Canyon. You get in a fight at Market, but there's 15 squads alive. Well, it's safe to assume that this is going to get third party. You might ask, why? The reason is because there's a ton of POIs around Market that people land at. Once they loot, the natural thing for them is to look for a fight. If they hear your shots, then you, my friend, are getting third party. So make sure to take the time to look for good fights, and you'll find a ton of success in your upcoming games. So guys, obviously these aren't all the things that pro players do that you don't. But these here have given you a few of their tactics and mindsets that you can add to your own game. Let us know in the comment section below which high-level Apex players you like to watch, and maybe even drop a helpful tip or two for the others in the comments. I've really liked a few of your guys' comments so far, so please keep them coming. Anyway guys, my name's Invalued. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed, sub to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.